Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Mad Sounds podcast. We talk about music and other whatevers. My name's Mark, and today we have on Mr. Crash Thompson, who's been kind of a recurring guest every now and then. Always like talking to him. In case you were directed here by him, which I assume realistically the majority of these views is going to be from, he has been on a couple previous episodes. The last time actually was back in May, or the episode itself might have been uploaded in June, but it was when I actually visited Indiana, and did an episode with him and my usual co-host Johnny, aka Viral Rack, who we bring up at one point in this just because he was mentioned actually in one of Crash's recent catch-up quickies when they were talking about one band. But more importantly here, so this episode is sort of divided into three parts. The second one being sort of a companion piece in a way to his video he put out about a week ago called How to Get Into, where he talked about how people who want to get into the Tragically Hip following their singer's death should get into it. I'm being a little redundant here, but you get the idea. And it was a part of this segment that we do called Hook Reports every now and then, where we like assign each other albums. And in this case, he gave me a Tragically Hip album. I gave him a Japandroids album. We did a little Canadian special here, just kind of mix things up culturally, I suppose. After that, we talked about a festival I went to. I had him like pick out the bands that he was most interested in hearing about, and kind of focused on those. Specifically, we also went over the regrets incident that happened where some stupid person pushed their singer off stage and totally ruined everything. Other sets went better, but there was just like a focus on that one as well as a couple of the other things. A little bit of a mixed experience, but I still enjoyed it, all things considered. And I decided to say the second and third parts first because right now I'm going to throw to the first segment, which is where we talk about the new Owl City song. Enjoy. Oh, and subscribe and rate and review and all that share and kind of stuff. Okay, this kind of gets in the way of the transition. Bye! One, two, three.
Mark, why the fucking fuck would you make me listen to this goddamn dumpster truck of horse shit? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Owl City was a pile of horse cum back when everyone was listening to him. Now that he's gone light country kayfabe horse shit, no, just, oh god, John was not exaggerating. This song is anal waste pouring out of a dump truck, and I've gone full angry video game nerd. That song was just fucking horrendous. Thank Christ this monkey shit is out of my jurisdiction. Holy fuck. Okay, that's longer than 5 seconds, but Jesus. Oh, dude, I got thoughts. I'm sorry. I got thoughts.
I needed a cold open, okay?
Oh, you got the coldest open. Wow.
Colder than the, like, 90s movie about sledding that's on this single cover, by
Dude,
the way.
I just gave you five copies.
Horrible Photoshop.
Oh, God, yes. Oh, what even is this? Okay, this seriously looks like a promotion for Mitt Romney's next presidential campaign. Seriously, what the hell even? Owl City, didn't he used to be like sort of an emo hair sort of looking guy?
Yeah,
he's gotten
that was more like 2009, but yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, he's gotten
very
all
MySpace. He got big on MySpace.
Yeah, he's gotten all pudgy and the crew cut and like, what is this 90s ass girls wearing hats and a dude on a four-wheeler, or maybe that's a dirt bike? This is, oh god. Owl City's bro country phase needs to end right motherfucking quick.
Okay, because you know this isn't a first for him, right?
It's not. Oh.
Okay, so by the way, I gotta give some background for everyone that didn't hear the huge announcement. So, Owl City, Mr. Adam Young, you know, so he put out a new song. Personally, I think some of his past stuff's okay. Maybe not on the same level as John. Like, I think, you know, a lot of that first album kind of blends together. But All Things Bright and Beautiful, solid synth pop record, all things considered. Never decided to capitalize on that potential, and now we're here at All My Friends, which is the lead single from this album called Cinematic that he's gonna be dropping apparently in June.
Oh God!
By the way, which is just why would you? But okay.
Again, thank God this is out of my jurisdiction. You guys can have it.
But as I was saying, so in 2015, his last album came out, Mobile Orchestra. I'm not sure if you remember, if you saw like John thoroughly roasting that, or as I did, a little more mercifully, but still pretty mercilessly in my own review, with the milestone of being the first review I edited in Vegas, by the way.
Oh,
so
cool. Yeah,
clearly he deserved that.
Oh yeah,
he deserved that distinction.
Yeah, if you're gonna save the special treatment, it needs to be for Mr. Butterflies or whatever that song. Fireflies.
Which
Thank
is
you.
apparently like some kind of ironic meme now, and I don't really get it. It's no All-Star in that regard. But so anyway, on that album, he basically had a total identity crisis. Like, the lead single was like this song with Aloe Black about like graduations, and then like there was this one song with Hanson that was just about like 90s nostalgia, which is also horrible.
See, that's kind of a shame, because Hanson is actually fairly legit. They've actually
they aged incredibly well.
Oh,
it's like,
God, yes.
Them and Owl City have like the exact opposite trajectories.
Yeah, Hanson is the exact opposite of a band like Owl City. That's starting from god awful, but coming way, way, way out of it. Oh, Hanson is actually, oh man.
Yeah, that's it. That song was still awful. But the other feature on that album is Back Home with Jake Owen.
Okay.
Do you know? He's like a bro country kind of guy.
I thought the name sounded familiar, but yeah,
he's not as bad as a lot of the other bro country guys, but he's still in that league. Yeah, and like, I thought that was cringeworthy when it came out, but this makes that look like Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
By comparison.
Oh no, like this is
like Sturgill Simpson, you know?
This is no White Buffalo, I can say that for sure. This is some very like, man,
it's not even like good mainstream country, like a Dierks Bentley or Eric Church.
It's Disney Channel. It straight up sounds like something the Disney Channel would commission.
Single cover. That's a DCOM DVD cover if I ever saw one.
Yeah, right? Like, seriously, I would not be surprised if there's an All My Friends, like, Disney family movie or, like, Fox Family or whatever the hell coming out, like, within the next 2 or 3 months. This whole album isn't even an album. It's just the soundtrack for some shitty movie where we learn about the value of friendship, but have some hard times. Am I right, family? Oh, God.
Right down to the build up to the chorus being literally like the sound of people putting their hands together and going, oh.
Yeah, that's so, oh my God, that is cheeseball. We have transcended a new level of cheese with this. And of course it would be Owl City to be the one to put us over that horrible benchmark.
And we didn't even touch on the rapping, by the way.
Oh, I was way too fascinated by everything else. The rapping is the least of this song's. Weirdly enough, it's the least of this song's problems. Oh dear God.
Because, I mean, it is the first thing to instantly stand out as atrocious because it first starts like 5 seconds in. And I'm gonna repeat my tweet about it that I replied to John's review with. This makes Florida Georgia Line's rapping look like Aesop Rock or LP by white rapper standards.
Wait, you're talking? Oh yeah, because the verses, is that supposed to be rap? It just sounded like,
I think so, but bro country rap.
Okay,
where it's like where it's like you probably like heard what it is a couple times and know that it's supposed to be on a rhythm and talking.
Yeah, but it's
like nothing else.
It translates here as just talking with really, really awkward white boy cadence. I remember you once recommended I listen to Aesop Rock way back in the Stone Age. I listened to it and I said it's pretty cool, but he kind of has awkward white boy cadence. I couldn't get into it. I apologize. Because
thank you.
This awkward white boy cadence is like, oh God, I'm ashamed to be white right now listening to this shit. This is why see, all of the problems we have in America are a result of this horrible song. This is oh Jesus.
And it's funny that you say you when we were listening to it, because we basically listened to it and then immediately you press record. You were saying, like, you know, in the intro, like, dude, stick to the synths. Actually, a lot of the best moments of his the last few years was when he kind of dabbled in some rock stuff. Like, he had this one song with Mark Hoppus called Dementia that was really good. A couple songs on Mobile Orchestra that showed a bit of potential for having more of a pop rock kind of style that his voice did kind of fit over in like a Tom DeLonge, Ben Gibberty kind of way, you know? Which, I mean, kind of comes back around with the comparisons he got early on. Yeah. But still.
But I could see that potentially kind of working out. Yeah.
Not anymore. No. Not acoustic guitars.
Oh, no. This, like, oh man, just this again, it's just the cheesiest, overproduced, like, oh, it's distorted, but we don't want people thinking we're one of those loud and rockety, rock bands. So dial it back so that it's, it's Disney Channel. It's so Disney Channel. I just see, oh God, Owl City. Why couldn't you have just developed a drug problem like every other good pop star? Seriously. I'm sorry. That sounds. I don't mean that. That's a joke. Before anyone takes me to task. But I know. People, I'm sorry. This song is bad.
I'd like to think my audience my small audience understands that.
Yeah.
But you never know. Sometimes you're like. Sometimes you put a lot of work into having this ironic sense of humor, and then you're like, really, no one is understanding that. Yeah. I'm not attracting people that like gravitate to that. No, I want a Jax Films caliber comment section. That was something I was talking with John earlier, but we're getting on a whole other thing. Bottom line, I just wanted to start on a fun note.
Dude, you should have then. Oh my God, this wasn't fun. This song is not fun.
But okay, so we have actual topics, some of which are pretty serious, but yeah, I just wanted to get the ball rolling.
You rolled the ball right over my testicles with this song. Oh, Owl City. Like, Owl City was one of those artists I hadn't checked in on in a very, very long time, and oh man, like, I sympathize for the fans who have to hear this because I'm kind of in the same position as, like, because I feel like every music fan has, like, the artist that they were a fan of a few years ago that at this point it's, like, masochistic. Oh, absolutely.
To listen to what they just put out.
Oh, yes.
But you just have to keep coming back to it to know what they're going to do next, just to have morbid curiosity.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting to this point now, and I feel like we're going to get to the same position that I was at with B.O.B. when the Flat Earth thing happened. Like, we're going to have that breaking point moment at some point.
Yeah. Oh, that was rough, too.
If this wasn't.
Oh, he's still on that kick from what I understand, too.
And there's this thing where he's a slavery denier.
Oh, B.O.B.
Which I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's totally a thing. Dude, just B.O.B. You should. I actually remember his first couple of albums. I'm not even like a huge hip hop guy, but yeah, they were pretty decent. I remember liking them quite a lot, and oh man,
I could see those first couple records being more in your wheelhouse, just because he played a couple instruments on them,
Yeah,
but. Yeah, but then it's because, like, it's funny. I was going back and listening to his earlier mixtapes when I was getting more into him, and there's this one. Probably his best known mixtape from this called No Genre from 2010. The one bad song on it is about the Illuminati, and I should have taken that as a red flag.
Yeah, we should have all taken that as a red flag. I don't think anyone. Maybe there had been hints at that point, but I don't think anybody saw it coming the way it ended up coming. Oh God.
Yeah. Okay, now let's get into topics that matter.
Yes, sorry, forgive me for derailing. Topics.
No, you're sorry for derailing?
Well, I mean, you're the king of derails. I know this, but I also that one was my fault.
I started the train like by placing it a few miles away from the track. So, but okay. So there are two main topics that we're going to be two main segments that we're going to be talking about here. Actually, yeah, I think we should do this one first, just because it's probably a little bit more interesting, a little bit more back and forthy.
Okay.
Than we had before. So we're going to be doing a little segment that we did once or twice with Johnny before, and I haven't really gotten to do it as often as I like. But it's something I'm hoping to do more in the future. It's a little thing called Hook Reports.
Check this out. It's a new presentation, assigning exploration. The other guys got some doubts for the Hook Reports.
It's funny. We've been basically making every other episode a death cast lately. The one before that big hiatus was Chester Bennington. 2 episodes ago was Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we were initially going to have you on, but there were just some like, because there are some miscommunications on my end, really.
Yeah, and my schedule ended up chewing me up and spitting me out too. So that was just
We ended up making it work out though,
Yeah.
so it's cool because you said you were a pretty big fan, but I think it's funny, like, compared to that episode, I feel like this one's going to be sort of the opposite dynamic as what me and Johnny had, because I was like, I was into his whole discography, was able to tell you beat by beat his evolution and his strengths and all that.
Oh yeah.
Whereas Johnny, like, he'd heard Full Moon Fever, he'd heard one of the newer albums, but I can't, and like singles across the board, but like I kind of had to explain,
you had to educate him.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. Whereas I feel like it's gonna be a little more the other way around when it comes to the SoCal guy and the indie guy. You know?
Oh yeah. That's especially, like I say, for one thing, like, the band that you're reporting on is just a band I know inside, outside, upside down, in like every single way you could possibly imagine, at least for an American.
Yeah, and in retrospect, maybe I could have made an effort to reach out to our resident Canadian in this whole community. But you're a few hundred. You're a few hundred miles further north than me, so let's split the difference.
Close enough, right?
Yeah.
For one thing, we are adjacent. Indiana is actually very close to, we're fairly close to Ontario. And plus also, after I released my retrospective on the Tragically Hip, the How to Get Into video, I actually had a few of my Canadian fans comment, okay, Crash gets official Canadian citizenship. You're officially Canadian in our books. So
freaking heck, yeah.
I don't know when Justin Trudeau is sending over those papers, but I guess I'm Canadian now. So that's good. That's good to know.
Yay! Insert stereotypes here. But this is sort of continuing in a weird way. I'm just realizing from the last episode too, where I was sort of talking about like going outside the usual country, US, UK kind of thing, and like I talked about this singer-songwriter from Argentina. I talked about this like electronic music guy from France. So it's like I was just going everywhere, just after staying in my Tom Petty comfort zone for a week straight. And in a weird way, like it's same language. Mostly, but I'm gonna be taking a bit more of a cultural detour, I suppose, because our theme for this Hook Reports, for those of you guys that didn't listen to the last installment of it, it's a segment where we basically assign each other albums and sort of give our thoughts according to a certain theme, and the theme for this one was Canadian bands, because with the hip thing happening, you saying you were willing to be on the next episode. So the original theme we were going to do for this was me and Johnny were doing underrated 90s albums, which we're going to be doing in a future installment once he gets all this tech stuff figured out. But in the meantime, what we were going to do originally was like a 3-way hook reports where you were going to give a Tragically Hip album from the 90s that you think more Americans should know about. But then, you know, things happened, and then we just turned it into a Canadian bands thing, and the album you recommended was Fully Completely, and then I gave you the Japandroids Celebration Rock. We're probably going to get to that. We're probably going to, I don't know, which did you want to do first, honestly? Did you have a lot of thoughts on Japandroids?
I have some thoughts. I'm actually much more interested to hear your thoughts on Fully Completely.
Sounds good.
Actually, originally I recommended Phantom Power to you originally. Honestly, given a toss-up between the two, they're like neck and neck in how good they are, frankly. But given that Phantom Power, for some weird reason, is kind of tricky to get your hands on here in the States, it's not on Spotify. I don't think it's on Apple Music.
You were mentioning that. So, like, is it like their only album, or is it like a specific like period of time, or like one label?
I believe it's a label issue. That album is owned by Universal. So
Universal, God, those guys are frustrating for a number of reasons. Because like that last episode, I rendered it. I rendered that 2-hour episode, uploaded that 2-hour episode, and because I included more than like 15 seconds of that one Imagine Dragons song I had Johnny reacting to, blocked worldwide instantly.
Yep. Preaching to the choir, man.
So I had to render it again, upload it again, and of course,
no, dude, my hip, actually, ironically enough, my hip video that I put up still isn't, basically I can't claim any money from it, but thankfully it's still up, but ads are running for Universal, and all the money from that video goes to them and not to me. So
that's depressing.
Yeah, Universal is just, I've dealt with Universal for other bands too. They're barf. But as a result of Universal being dickheads, basically, it makes Phantom Power a little hard to get a hold of outside of Canada. So I assigned you the next best thing, which was Fully Completely.
You've obviously, I'm going to assume you have basically done the same thing as you're doing with me, you know, recommended Tragically Hip to people.
Oh God,
and,
yes.
them giving you their thoughts back. What are like the first bands, like American equivalent bands, that they compare them to?
The number one band that always comes up, REM.
I knew it.
Yep.
I knew it.
That's the thing. That's what's okay. If anyone asks me to describe the Tragically Hip in one sentence, the easiest thing I'll always say is just, it's Canadian REM, kinda, but not really.
Basically,
yeah. It's very, very REM, especially their 90s period.
The specific phrase I put down is REM playing in a really cool Canadian pub.
Yeah, that's
kind of like they had a little bit more of a hard rock guitar presence, you know.
Oh yeah.
A little bit of a bigger kind of drum sound going on, at least for Fully Completely.
Like they had the rock edge appeal that REM never really. They went much more fuller rock in a sense that REM never did, but to be fair, REM was never trying to do. So that's you know, like they had like the heady, cerebral, the really thoughtful and, you know, thought-provoking lyrics and experimental style. Gord as a performer, oh my God, he is just Michael Stipe through and through. But
I was gonna say, like in some of his like inflections and like some of the cadences and stuff, and the sort of like warble he has in some of the lines. Like it was very Stipean.
Yes,
for sure.
Oh, absolutely. But at the same time, they also had, from an instrumental standpoint, from a song structure standpoint, they also had like that good classic-y kind of rock vibe. Like this was a band that started out, you know, as a very blues rocky, a very sort of boogie woogie kind of band. You know, this was something, you know, this was originally like their first 2 albums, the very first things they ever made, really sound like jukeboxy kind of jams. You know, it's very, very kind of old school rock, and they never ever fully let that go. But they went into places that I don't think anybody was ever ever expecting them to go. And they went there with grace and style, and somehow they blended those two things that really seem like they shouldn't go together. You know, the Morrissey, REM, art rocky, sort of experimental, sort of really personal style of lyrics and performances and instrumentation that's just so raw and, you know, basic and fundamentally sound as a rock group. But they were able to throw that all into a blender and make it sound so goddamn wonderful. Like, it's,
Yeah.
I've said it, but if I've said it before, I'll say it a million times. The Hip is a fucking miracle.
Okay.
They are a miracle band. I'm sorry, this is about your thoughts on the Hip, so
and I know, but you're very educational here. You probably put about as much as you're going about as much as I did for all my notes.
Dude, I'm sorry, but the Hip is one of the.
No, go ahead.
No, like I've said, the Hip is one of my bands, dude. They're one of my favorite bands. If you let me nerd out on them, I will never shut up. I will talk your fucking ear off. I am that guy at the party who's just glazing the eyes of the entire room. But dude, I love this band.
Again, talking to the choir.
But again, I love this band so much, and they never got their due. Never got their due.
Although, it's funny you mentioned that because I was looking on the Wikipedia page for this album in particular, and they were saying that they were hoping that this album would be the one to break them through in America.
Yep.
And that strikes me as very interesting because, you know, I've gotten into a good amount of Canadian bands. I mentioned Japandroids. We're going to be getting into them later on. Death from Above. I can even say Bare Naked Ladies to an extent.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Always a band I talked about a couple episodes ago. Really big fan of their last album. Out of all that, this is by far the most aggressively Canadian album I've ever heard.
Yes, that's God. It's weird to say it like that.
Like Crash. I know that you were bagging on people for saying stereotypes and stuff, but there is literally a song on here about hockey.
Yeah, no, dude. Oh, dude, that's the thing. Like, yes, it's. Oh, the Hip, like that was the moniker that the Hip actually had. They were Canada's band. That wasn't just something they promote. That wasn't just promotional material. I think several prime ministers across their career referred to them as Canada's band, and they are Canada's band. And Trudeau even referred to them as Canada's band. And that's the thing, dude. They are very Canadian. Like a lot of the topics they sing about.
Sorry, let me just run down the themes section on the Wikipedia page to give you guys a good idea. So, the themes on Fully Completely are heavily centered on Canadian icons in history. Writer Rob Mitchell has described the album as a trippy Canadiana. Is that a word?
Canadiana. Yeah. It's like Americana, only Canadiana. Gotcha. Yeah.
Cute. A trippy Canadiana dream/nightmare, like the Odyssey, directed by Adam Egoyan. The title of the first track on the album, Courage for Hugh McLennan, makes reference to Canadian author Hugh McLennan and was inspired by his novel. The second track, Look for a Place to Happen, deals with the subject of European encroachment and the eventual annexation of the indigenous lands in North America, making specific reference to explorer Jacques Cartier.
Yep.
Third track, At the 100th Meridian, references the line of longitude that separates the Western Canada from the Central and Atlantic regions. So this is Canadian even on a geographic level.
Yes. This, again, the Hip.
The sixth track.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yes, this is, the band loved dropping a lot of references to their home country and their hometown heroes and the like. So I guess that is one big reason why the Hip probably had a lot of trouble breaking in. Like, they weren't worried about people not picking up on their references, so.
Yeah. Which I appreciate, They weren't dumbing it down for us Americans.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, like, Michael Stipe, Morrissey, they do the exact same thing. They don't give a flying fuck if you aren't following along, but you don't necessarily have to follow along to, realize how good the music is. But I'm sorry, please continue.
Okay, anyway, the sixth track, Locked in the Trunk of a Car, draws upon the kidnapping of Quebec cabinet minister Pierre Laporte during the FLQ crisis of 1970. The ninth track, 50 Mission Cap, references the life, career, and death of Toronto Maple Leafs player Bill Barilko.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, also the most Canadian hockey team name.
Yeah.
In addition to that, as well as 50 mission caps were provided to elite bomber pilots of the Allied Air Forces during World War II. I'm gonna assume that wasn't an exclusively Canadian thing, but still. The 10th track, Wheat Kings, references the wrongful imprisonment and eventual release of Canadian David Milnard. So not even just a Canadian. There wasn't even like anything added to the description of who he is. Just the release of Canadian David Milnard.
Yeah, it's one of those stories that if you like, it's one of those stories
what I'm
that
saying
a lot of
is
Canadian,
that they shouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, again, it's like it. If you are Canadian, there's a lot of references here that just kind of in the same way, like, for an American band, someone to reference like the JFK assassination or say O.J. Simpson or something, even though American events do tend to go global, it's still something that, you wouldn't have to contextualize. The Hip basically just do that only for a lot of Canadian events. Again, and they do that throughout all of their songs and throughout almost all their career. 38 Years Old is about a famous Canadian prison break, and that's from like their second album. Okay. Lonely End of the Rink is another great hockey song. Fireworks is another great hockey song off of Phantom Power. Like, again, like these guys, they don't exclusively write about Canada, but they do love writing about Canada, and they make it, goddamn it, they make the place seem pretty goddamn magical.
Yeah.
Like they got a love for their country. Like they really do. Yeah.
Because you know how there will be a few movies a year that just have American as the first word for no real reason.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or it's like a band will just like have like America in it for no real reason other than just like America. Yeah. And now I know what it's like on the other side of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's to say, like all this. Yeah, it's that is one thing to help you understand like what other countries go through when we cram our songs full of our references and our material that is all second nature to us. But again, you throw that out there to someone who isn't familiar with the culture, and you get like this groove is sick, but what is he talking about? And that was part of the problem with Gord too. Even when you did have all the references, even when you did understand everything he was talking about, you may not have still understood everything he was talking about because
that's definitely where some more of the Stipe things come in. And again, I'm not holding this and I should probably emphasize, even though I'm making a goof here. At the end of the day, like I'm not holding that against this album necessarily because like in a way, that kind of stuff just makes an artist more distinct, makes a songwriting style more interesting. I think that the main thing, I guess, that was just like personally kind of a drawback is that I wasn't really connecting with a lot of the lyrics on here just because like he is, even outside the Canadian references, he's very obtuse with stuff, clear, sort of plopping you in the middle of a situation with not much of an explanation about it.
He's very much like that. He tends to, well, for one thing, he tends to not write a lot from personal experience per se. He's not often singing as himself. He's singing as a narrator or a character, or he's coming at a situation from, like I said in my video on the Hip, Gord liked to tell stories more than he liked to talk about himself. Like he was more setting up a scene than preaching from a pulpit, and he very, very rarely liked, if a Hip song had a message, it was very, very rarely directly pointed at you. Like it was part of the larger narrative that, you usually would uncover after a few good listens and a few leafings through those lyric sheets. It's
maple leafings.
Go to your room.
You're already there, baby.
You're already in your room, but go to your room again. I don't care.
As you might say, waka waka.
Waka waka, yeah. There you go. But yeah, I like, even though I wish more people were into the hip, I do understand the sort of barriers to entry that are there. It's the same with a band like REM or with like the Smiths or something that is a bit more kind of just
nationally focused.
Yeah, it's or
it's like even outside that, just like very poetic, but like kind of vague. Well, not vague necessarily, because the thing I'm going to give this, because the thing I will give his lyrical style, because I don't want to disrespect the man, of course, but the thing that I'm going to really give credit for is he has a really creative like word choice. Like, even if I'm not fully understanding what he's saying, like I don't necessarily mind it because it just sounds really interesting anyway. Just looking at the track list for this thing, and maybe this is just an all over Canadian thing, because this also applies for the band I Assigned to You. Just like looking at the names of these songs, like At the 100th Meridian, Pigeon Camera, Lionized, The Wherewithal. I've never heard the word wherewithal used in a song before.
Yeah, again.
And now I wish every song had the word wherewithal in it.
Yeah. No, he was a real thesaurus writer. He really, like, Gord had a very, very verbose vocabulary. But he was a poet too, you know. That I think at the end of the day, that was what Gord was trying to accomplish. More than lyrics, more than just words to sing along to. Gord wanted to tell a story, and he wanted to write poetry with his lyrics. And god damn it, 99% of the time it was effective. Like,
yeah, and it's pretty, and you know, some really catchy stuff on here too. And it's funny, like one of the catchiest moments on here, it's like a song title like At the 100th Meridian. You're gonna wonder like, how the hell are you gonna fit that into a chorus hook? And they do. And it's the best one on this album, probably.
Yeah. Oh god, yes. Like, man, they just drive that home completely, man. Like, God, and especially that breakdown in the middle, that's sort of like, it's not really a bridge per se. It's almost like a third verse that's just kind of fucky, you know, like the whole, if I die of vanity, promise me they'll bury me someplace I don't want to be and drag me off. Oh god, that whole part is just, again, like, and again, like, it also adds to the fact that, yes, even if you don't understand what they're singing about, and, you know, unless you're Canadian and very willing to take a dive, it's possible you won't know what the hell these guys are banging on about the first time you hear most hip albums. But the thing is, Gord's word choice, his poetry, helps sell that whole idea. It keeps you interested. Even if you don't know what they're talking about, it still sounds just lovely. It makes you want to learn what the hell they're talking about, and it makes you want to investigate and find out a little deeper. See, that was always one of the barriers to entry with the hip. They're probably not a band you're just gonna love right from the outset. It is a band that, to truly appreciate, you do have to do a little bit of research and really dig a little bit before you can really sort of fully grasp just how just amazing these guys, just how spellbinding the stuff these guys were doing really was. But once you do it, man, fuck, it's so wonderful.
I gotcha. And something just occurred to me is that, like, I end up reading the lyrics for this on their website, because they're one of those awesome bands that does the thing most bands should do, where they have the lyrics for all their songs just on their website. Yeah. Just to prevent anyone from like really badly transcribing it onto AZ lyrics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like all music, like Genius and All Music can only take us so far sometimes. And again, the hip, and given some of the hip's lyrics and some of the words they use and the topics they talk about, I can understand that getting mistranslated really quickly. So I'm glad. Again, the hip's website is a community service. It's wonderful.
But what I was going to say is that if they didn't have that, then I probably would have gone to Genius and just spent hours in the annotations. Like, I can see them being to rock, like, sort of in the hip hop world with an Aesop Rock or like a Lupe Fiasco or an LP or someone like that, where it's just like sort of addicting to just go into this crazy wall of language that they've constructed in front of you, and it can be this kind of fun deep dive to do.
Oh yeah,
which, you know, and I wouldn't be surprised if this album was fully annotated on Genius. By the way,
you know, I actually did leaf through a lot of the albums I researched for on Genius, and yeah, this album has a lot of. It wasn't as thoroughly Actually, a lot of hip albums weren't as thoroughly annotated as I thought they might be. But yeah, this album is just all over the place. Just, just all like, yeah, if again, it's one of those albums that if you want to dive into it, if you really want to research it, you've got a gold mine waiting for you there. But
So I guess that about does it on a Fully Completely, and really that's just a good summary of the hip in general from what I've heard again. But I will say that, like I said earlier, I was initially going to listen to them, and in retrospect, I'm kind of glad I put this CD off to the side because it wouldn't have been as good because it wouldn't have been as good of a first impression. Because initially, when the news broke about Gord having that cancer, I decided to next time I was at a record store to pick up a hip album if I saw it. And I ended up getting a copy of Music at Work for a couple bucks. And you said that was the album that got you into them, right?
It actually was.
And I did see your video, so I know now like that it's not considered like fully completely level of classic.
Yeah,
by any means.
Like it's still pretty good, but it's not. And it is the album that got me into the hip generally, but it's not one I'd recommend other people try out.
Yeah. So I just end up getting to this now. I didn't really pay as close attention to it as Fully and Completely, but honestly, like it didn't really grab my attention like Fully Completely did originally.
No.
Because like I will say the first 3 tracks start awesome.
Absolutely.
Music at Work. I'd say my favorite is probably a toss-up between Tiger the Lion and Freak Turbulence. That was another great one.
Yeah, Freak Turbulence is really good. Tiger the Lion is so damn trippy, but once it gets going, it does get going pretty strong.
And Freak Turbulence actually was a song I understood on a lyrical level.
Oh, yeah. See, that's the thing. Music at Work is actually one of those albums that doesn't have a ton of entries on like Lyrics Genius or any other sort of song meanings or anything like that. So you're just kind of,
but yeah.
Yeah.
What I am going to say is that, now I haven't heard any of their other albums, but I'm going to take a guess and ask you as someone that's heard all their stuff. Is Stay the first time they use drum machines?
Probably not the very actually, it might be. It legit might be because...
Yeah, because that's the song that was like, I don't want to go too hard on them now, but... it doesn't blend at all.
Yeah, again, it's an album that's weirdly dated. It has a lot of weird that album came out
down the title.
Yeah, not just the title actually. Like that album came out in 2000. So it has a lot of stuff that was popular in 2000 kind of on it. Again, the electronic drums, I'm
looking at the packaging too, and like some of the designs on here, if you're looking at this with like kind of with the cover, but also like I don't know, something about like the liner note design of it feels very early internet.
Yeah, no, a lot of bands were jumping onto that trend, and the hip were kind of on that too, especially with this album.
Crash, I have some very bad news. The guy that played keyboards on 5 songs here, you probably don't want anything associated with Chris Brown.
I highly doubt it's that Chris Brown. If it is that same Chris Brown, I am flabbergasted.
10-year-old
Chris Brown was on the Tragically Hip's full. God, if anybody, why wouldn't it be Drake? Drake was Canadian, and he probably was 10 around this time. Yeah. No, if anything, that's probably a pseudonym for Drake on this album. God.
And there's also a guy named Mr. Hussein playing tabla on one song. Okay,
idea.
See, there's no excuse there. This was 2000.
Yeah. And also, again, tabla for a song. That was like sort of Indian and Middle Eastern instruments kind of fucking around because Madonna made it cool. That was, something else that...
So again, very 2000.
Very 2000. Very turn of the millennium. This album, again, it's not overbearing like a lot of other albums were. Like, if you're not, like, in some cases, unless you're really paying attention for it, you might miss it. But if you know what to look for, especially, then you'll be like, oh yeah, I know exactly when this album was made.
Okay, and you know what? Because and I'm not gonna fault them too much for doing that at the time, because it's like, a few other bands were doing the whole kind of hopping on that early internet thing. Like, I'm not sure if you know, but Jethro Tull's last original album is called jtoll.com.
Oh God, really?
Came out in '99.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, and you know what was funny is that the fact that I have two reasons to mention Jethro Tull right now. The song "Train Overnight" kind of gave me some Tull vibes, and like some of the guitar work and some of like the vocal phrasing, and did kind of register in my mind that in addition to Michael Stipe, like that's another person that now Gord kind of gives me some vibes of maybe a little Ian Anderson in there, especially in some of the more cryptic themes behind there.
Yeah,
good comparison.
I'm not the biggest Tull aficionado, but I do know Anderson could get pretty heady and pretty trippy himself too. So yeah. And and the thing about Music at Work is it's in there, but again, the hip still sounds like the hip. Like it's still, it's not an album that will do much more to you than, oh, that's a little odd. It's not like, what's a good example of an album that just completely throws you out of it?
You just said they don't have a Saint Anger. You said they don't have a Saint Anger.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Well, no, that's a perfect example. It's not like a Saint Anger where you're like, what the fuck did you guys do? No.
They don't have an All My Friends.
They don't have an All My Friends. Thankfully, they do not have an All My Friends. Oh, you go fault.
But it's like even the worst reaction I had outside the drum machine on Stay was like that it just got a little less memorable in the back half, really.
Yeah, it's an album that really runs out of steam. Like, it's front loaded. Like, the best stuff on that album is in the first 30 minutes of that album.
Yeah, that's fair. And it is 14 tracks, so that's about half the album.
Yeah, it's also very long too. Very, very long album. Longer than it needs to be, frankly, but It's got some good stuff here and there, just not the ideal starting point, really. Like, they've done much better. There are much easier routes to get into the hip, But
this is actually the exact point I was making I like there are a lot of parallels to the Petty episode, actually. This is something I was really hammering on with Johnny in that episode, is that, like, it's incredibly rare for someone with this long of a discography to go that whole way without, like, that era where they're like, oh, we don't talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's another...
Like, the closest Petty got is, like, Southern accents and Let Me Up I've Had Enough, but even those have incredible moments on them.
Yeah, I wouldn't write those off as being bad, but even then maybe just lesser. And the Hip is one of those bands, like, they don't have a bad period. Even the albums that I said weren't great in my video, even I still spin those from time to time. It's just they're just not as good as they could or maybe should be in some cases. But even then, for a band to go for that long and have that gigantic, that mammoth of a discography, and to go at it for as long as they did and not full-blown faceplant anything, to just stumble here and there. God, even some of the greatest bands in history haven't done that. Like, that's beyond impressive. Like, hell, even like I said, even some of the best bands in history have some unlistenable shit. U2 did pop. The Rolling Stones had tons of bad albums. Yeah.
And also Turn of the Millennium thing, by the way. That
another turn. Yeah, that was a great example.
That time was just cruel to iconic rock acts.
The the new millennium really was the last stand for a lot of bands, for basically the whole 90s mentality and the whole 90s way of doing things. Like, if you weren't willing to adapt by that time, then you either died off really quick, or you made your attempt and failed miserably at it. But again, they were the early 2000s. They were sort of an awkward transitionary period for the Hip. But the thing is, even though Music at Work is a little flawed, they were able to make that transition eventually pretty solid, because their very next album after that is In Violet Light, and that album is
you put that in your top tier.
Oh yeah, it's unbelievable. Oh, it's wonderful.
When the sunlight hits the Olive Oil, don't hesitate.
Okay, I think that's
okay.
Honestly, like it's a nice little summation, I think, of your video in a way. Nice little side piece, companion piece.
Yeah,
which is kind of what I was aiming for. I mean, yeah, we'll see how much of stuff could we keep in because we're 55 minutes in.
Yeah, no,
but,
I'm sorry, dude. Again,
so now what do you have to say about mine?
You get me talking about the hip, I'll never shut up. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem. I mean, it's better to have too much material than not enough.
That's true.
You know,
that is very true.
So, Japandroids.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had so much enthusiasm for the hip, and now, I'm sorry, dude. I don't have the same level of enthusiasm here for Japandroids. I like it. I really, really enjoyed it. Near to the Wild Heart of Life was the album you assigned me, right?
Okay, so this is interesting. That's actually their new one from this year.
Oh, that wasn't.
So I gave you Celebration Rock.
Oh, God damn it.
Well, it's okay. It's okay because they kind of have a sound that goes throughout their career, and in a way, like. So I was actually debating which album of theirs to give you because, and I kind of brought them up a few episodes ago when I was talking about their new album, Near the Wild Heart of Life. So they put out 3 albums. There's Post Nothing from 2009, which is a lot more like lo-fi, a lot more kind of jammy. You get a couple of songs to go over to the 6-minute mark, even though there's definitely a couple for this on the new one, but still, like it was a little less structured, but also like really exciting in a lot of its best moments. I think all 3 of their albums are fantastic, personally.
Oh, yeah.
They're very consistent. Like all 8 tracks, 35 minutes, no filler.
Yeah,
with just those 2. And then the next album, Celebration Rock, which is the one I was giving you. But that's okay. It's honestly the only drawback because it's kind of like the album that made them explode in the indie scene in 2012.
Okay. Yeah.
And kind of, got them all the year-end accolades and stuff.
Yeah.
That album, it has, like, the most, like, in-your-face anthemic stuff on it. Just, like, that super propulsive, like, making you feel like you can do anything. Like, like all the whoa choruses and stuff. Like, it's, if you want to get a good grasp of that sound, that's the album I'd recommend.
Okay.
Personally, like, if you were gonna do a parody of the Japandroids, you would get a good idea by because there is a definite formula to it.
Okay,
but there's still just that appeal and that just kind of energy just seeping through every second of it through just those 2 guys.
Oh yeah.
And but the only drawback is that again a lot of the songs follow a similar kind of formula. But it's a very, very good formula at the same time, and all those songs are like 4, 5, 6 minutes long, and they do not feel it. Which is impressive with no solos and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Then we're moving on, and kind of the interesting thing, if we're gonna get into the Canadian side of things, so they're originally from Vancouver, and I was actually thinking of asking you to check out one song from the first album called Rockers East Vancouver because it has that in the name and stuff.
Oh.
And also on this record, you do have kind of a Canadian reference on the song Northeast Southwest.
Oh yeah. That's to say that was
which is basically all about touring America and just like missing home.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Yeah, I really dug that song actually. Yeah, it's again another one of those Canadian songs. It's not afraid to be just bold-faced Canadian,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're not against the concept.
Oh no, not at all. Oh, but
so I've kind of given like the background spiel about everything, and it's not honestly again. If it was the other way around and I just ended up checking out I know that it's not on streaming services, but if I end up checking out Phantom Power or if Road Apples was on there or something or it's one of those albums in your top tier, you still wouldn't have minded if I ended up checking that out instead.
Okay, so that's kind of the situation we've got here. Okay,
yeah. Because I think that all their albums are fantastic for their own reasons, and Near the Wild Heart of Life, it's definitely their most diverse album. For one thing, there's actually bass on some songs.
Yeah, that was another thing when you were going through their history and we're like, oh yeah, they were like this, but they were very formulaic and they did a lot of the same stuff over and over again. Compared to the album I just listened to, I was like, really? I didn't get that vibe from this album. This must be pretty different then.
This is it's you can tell why, because this also did take a long time to record because it was a lot more of an intensive recording process, and you can really tell because you got those you got those synth loops in there with the Arc of Bar, and you could see a lot more of like the sonic craziness going on here. And that's I think what separates this album from the other ones is just how much more variation there is, which at this point I think is exactly what they needed.
Like that was the thing. One thing that impressed me so much was the fact that, they are a duo, and they do still sound like a duo. Like there's a stripped down kind of sort of essence to what they're doing, like the music is very, like the drums are very complicated and the guitars are very chord heavy, but very played very powerfully and very just bam, bam, bam. Everything is hard struck and everything is in your face to a degree. But again, I was impressed that what they were doing had so much power and variety and so much interesting flavor and color to it. But also B, I love the fact that they weren't. Well, I love the fact that they were a duo, but they weren't like garage rock or straight lo-fi or like a blues thing. I reviewed, what was it, Royal Blood? Yeah, I reviewed Royal Blood earlier in the year, and while that album was pretty decent, it was still like just kind of what it was. It was, another duo. But again, it's good, but again, it was just super bluesy and super kind of like garagey, and that's not always something I'm in the mood for.
It's like the default for this kind of setup.
Yeah, it is kind of like a default. Yeah,
like for example, I obviously don't want to want you to give your thoughts yet, but I feel like this has been a fantastic year for rock duos. Like between this, Death from Above. Are you familiar too much with Death from Above? Because this is another Canadian duo.
I'm familiar with them. I'm actually going to be reviewing them on the next catch-up quickie I'm doing. So
nice.
Yeah.
And also on that catch-up quickie is the one that I requested. And I obviously I don't want to give you to give your thoughts here. I don't want to spoil anything. But you get the idea, that sort of idea of subverting what you would normally expect for that setup.
Yes, yeah, and that was something that really impressed me about this, because, like I said, it didn't stick to any kind of formula, even though this has been a weirdly good year for that kind of thing. Yeah, like you said, Death from Above and Royal Blood, and there have been a lot of other duos that have been kind of popping up here and there lately. It's kind of weird, actually, but yeah, again, it's not just the damn Black Keys again, or another lesser White Stripes. I've heard so many lesser White Stripes happen over the
Okay, dude. I'm just saying, like in the San Diego sort of surf punkish scene, like it's not duos, but there are that sound is just so repeated over and over again. With you don't care what notes are being played as long as it just sounds vaguely Jack White.
Yeah, that's been going around, and that's probably gonna go around for at least another 5, maybe 10 years or so. I don't know, dude. The White Stripes, whatever you want to say or whatever you think about them, whatever you want to say about them, you cannot deny their influence because everybody's ripping them off.
And
just
also
Jack White in general, Jack White's other material. I mean, it's more not just the White Stripes, just that Jack White is an admitted genius, but yeah, he's got a lot of people hanging onto that old coattail. I hate to say it.
Yeah, but you got any more thoughts on this here?
Those were my main general thoughts. Again, I love that it is another duo act, but it's a duo act that does mix up the formula, that does do interesting things with it, that can get a little heady and serene. They can do not like a full-blown ballad, but stuff like Arc of Bar or In a Body Like a Grave, the closer, stuff that can mellow out and kind of bring us down a little bit, and it's not just full blown, just the same old. I'm sorry, that probably doesn't translate.
That exact rhythm. Rhythm. And also I'm sorry for not finding you sooner, which is down shoegazy.
Yeah, right. Oh my God, again, so much of the duo rock sort of vibe is that it's samey, is that it can get homogenous. And these guys have sort of perfected, at least on this album, at least, the sort of way you can mix up that formula. Because a lot of what I hear in backlash when I review bands like that is, well, it is what it is. You just got to take it for what it is. You know, it's just, you know, they can only do so much in this soundscape. This is a good album to hold up to people and say bullshit, you know?
Both freaking poop.
Yeah, exactly. You can, like, I was impressed by this album. I will be giving this a few more spins. I don't know if I'll have time to review it on my show. I would like to.
No problem. Now, if you do want to get around to like some of their past stuff, I think the songs that are most representative of that are actually the two songs that were released as singles: the title track and No Known Drinker Drug. I can never say that.
Oh yeah. Too many N's. I hear you.
Yeah, no known drinker. Nope. And then you got to go on to the next consonant, and like, like especially like the House That Heaven Built. That is considered like their classic song.
Okay.
By the way, if you're gonna go to one that like best represents, like, that's the song I'd immediately point someone to.
Okay. Good. Cool.
And also one more thing on the duo thing. Like, that's actually something that, because I'm in kind of a tricky situation with my own music right now, where I played all the instruments on the album. And I'm trying to find out a way to play it live, like logistically, because I tried the whole because we've talked about recapped that whole show to you on last time you were on. I just realized, because it was shortly after that happened. But after that, I was just like, I can't do the tracks thing anymore. So at this point, like, I'm just trying to find some drummer in the area that'll be willing to, you know, not make too much money, but just, you know, play the okay drums I provided for the album, and probably provide something a little bit more creative in the process. I don't know, but I'm just thinking about that setup and that format, and like how to properly transcribe all that stuff, because luckily there aren't any like crazy solos on the album, so so I don't think that would be too much of an issue on my album personally. But
I feel ya. This was something I was going to be working on this year, but I've had to push it back to next. I'll be working on another one of my albums too, but this is going to be but this is actually going to be full electric guitars, electric bass. I just but I also need to work out the drum situation, because it's the one instrument I don't play actually, so that'll be interesting. That'll be an interesting road to cross.
Yeah, and like that was one thing when I was thinking about, because for my setup at home, like, I just have like the set of like pads, and normally I would have gotten it, and you know, I managed to fit a lot of stuff into this dorm. I got my turntable off to the side here, and all my CDs and records, and I got my keyboard and my acoustic, and I managed to fit in a weird amount of stuff into here. But I couldn't. The one thing I couldn't get in here was my drum pads, and then so I ended up storing it in my mom's garage, and they had to like deconstruct them in order to make them fit, and so I'm kind of in a spot there, because I'm not going to be coming back down there for another couple months.
Drums in dorm rooms never get along. Never, ever.
I mean, even pads, just
even pads.
Space.
Yes, people, even pads. That is something you will have to either get really, really creative about, or just give up hope and just, you know.
Yeah, because that's why, like, when I was doing that Tom Petty cover, like, I would have liked nothing more than to do a cover of Joe, because I think that song deserves a lot more attention. But I ended up doing California because it's just a nice kind of acoustic strum along kind of thing.
Oh yeah. No, you do what you got to do. It's understandable.
Oh crap! There's one more thing, little factoid I forgot to mention on the hip thing. So I actually first heard the name referenced when I watched, because I'm wearing a Rush shirt right now.
Oh yeah.
And you know, we both wore Rush shirts for our Canadian tributes for this kind of thing.
Weirdly enough, I don't know. That's one of the few Canadian bands you can get merch for in a hurry in the States. You know. If you're hard pressed, you can find a Rush store at any Hot Topic or
So where I was going with that is that where I first heard a reference to that band was in it was on Beyond the Lighted Stage, where they were described by someone as tragically unhip.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's a weird phrase. It didn't occur to me that was a take on a tragically hip.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, unhip, like no one says that. But and now I'm wondering, when would someone have said that? Because this band has been around for a much smaller amount of time than Rush. But,
but again, they've had at least in Canada, they've had this. I'd say they've had a similar, if not the same, amount of cultural impact. Like the hip again is big bananas in Canada. Rush were one of the few bands that were able to break out internationally, but the hip are as big in Canada as Rush is everywhere else. I would say they're a big deal.
You know what?
They are a very big deal. They're on postage
the hip
stamps.
And Rush, it's been a rough year for bands stopping for Canada.
I know, dude. Preaching to the choir there.
Yeah.
Excuse me. With my luck, Bad Religion is going to retire this year, and all three of my favorite bands won't be around anymore.
I mean, Greg's solo album was pretty good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was pretty good. I could live with that if they have to break up and Greg will just release some nice Americana stuff here and there. I could live with that.
Yeah. This is just so. What bands have you gotten requests in the comments to do next on the series?
Oh God. Well, actually,
have you gone Rush?
Oh no. I've only done one episode so far, and unfortunately,
I know. I'm saying that you've gotten requests for in the comments of the hit video.
In the comments, yeah. Probably the biggest one, ironically enough, that I've gotten so far in both comments and on Twitter, REM. People, because
I can see that. I can see that. So that's another band with a very consistent catalog where there's not a reputation for this one being the one you need to get to, this one being the stay away at all costs.
You say that, but there are a few albums that would sorely hit my avoid. Proceed with caution.
I know, but none of them are none of them are a Saint Anger level of infamy. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. Up is pretty bad, dude.
I know, but you never hear that in the I know, but fans know that. But you never hear that in the general conversation.
It's not again. Yeah, REM's bad period is not as generally well known, thankfully, as their good stuff. That's very fortunate. But I would say, yes, REM has a huge discography that can really be hard to get into if you just oh, hey, I liked that Everybody Hurts song. Hey, let me pick up this Automatic for the People, and then you're like, oh, what the hell is going on here? I can understand why people would want a guide to REM's catalog, and again, it's one of those albums. They're one of those bands that can be really hard to get into if you don't know specifically where to dig, because, and again, they've had albums that have had really, really good songs on them, but the albums themselves are just really weird or really not good places to, you hear Ebo the Letter and think it's going to be a nice little romp, but then you pick up, I forget which album that's actually on.
More Adventures in Hi-Fi.
Yeah, you pick up More Adventures in Hi-Fi, and you're like, yeah. So I get REM was a big one. I guess, again, also because for Americans at least, listening to the hip does kind of trigger that, this is like Canadian REM. So I can understand why that might be part of it. REM was a big one.
You attracted the jangly guitar crowd.
The jangly guitar crowd, yes. that will be a very profitable genre to explore for this series, let me tell you.
and I'm honestly going to need that too, because a little quick history for my own music listening. So around 2010, I started I started checking out CDs from the library, and I did a really stupid thing where I would get a giant pile of CDs and only rip the singles to my iTunes.
Oh, Oh, saving space? No.
No, that would have made sense. I would, and some of the time I would just like check like the All Music review and like see what the track picks were, because like I don't know, like I just had this weird thing about listening to a full album. I don't know what it was, but it's like it wasn't until like 2011 or 12 maybe where I was just like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But where I'm going with that is that this was unfortunately also from like around the time when REM was putting out, Collapse Into Now and then breaking up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I just got like all their records from the library pretty much, and so I know like 3 songs from every album.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean. So I think I've heard Green in Full a couple times, but outside that,
yeah.
I do have like a CD copy of like Monster and New Adventures in Hi-Fi and one other one.
Probably,
but yeah, like that. Like that's the reason why I've heard. See, and like with the singles thing, like that's the reason why I haven't heard Documented in Full, but I've heard Man-Sized Wreath.
Yeah. Again, you're missing out. Like those IRS years are actually some of the best work, but no, I can understand. Again, REM being one of those bands that they're a very different band from their singles than they are from their albums, so it can make it difficult to get into them. REM would be a prime candidate. That might be the very next one, actually, but I'm still going through. I have other candidates too. Slater-Kinney was a big ask.
Religion.
What's that?
Oh, Bad Religion.
Oh, Bad Religion's up there. Yeah, Bad Religion will get done. Bad Religion, Rush will get done. Red Hot Chili Peppers will also definitely be done at some point. Oh yeah.
I mean, the thing is, like, I can see myself doing like maybe like once I dive a little bit more, maybe like a Beck one I can see, or like I don't know, like, especially something where it's like there's like a ton of different directions that were gone into it. I can see some, because it's interesting. Like there's just like different types of discographies.
That's another thing. That's another thing too with this series. I've gotten requests from people to do stuff like Beck and Ween and Primus, but they're bands I'm not into necessarily. But I know people that are into those artists. So something else I might do with this series, once we're a few episodes in and it's a bit more established, I might actually, like, Johnny is a big Primus guy, and I know a few other people that are big Primus guys. When we get to Primus, my dumb ass won't know what he's talking about, so I will maybe throw that over to Johnny or Akraloth, my other guy who knows Primus, or my other people.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. Well, the other people who might be and who are content creators too, people who are into those bands who could do a way better job at it than I could step in, and they could do that and get a little bit of cross promotion too, which is always good. Yeah.
I mean, doors always open if you want. Actually, I feel like you wouldn't need any help on Tom Petty. Actually, it seems like you got your bases covered.
Dude, I'm a Hoosier. Believe me, I know my Tom Petty.
Is he big? Is he especially big in Indiana?
He's kind of big in Indiana. Well, because
I can see it actually.
Yeah. Well, because basically ever since Last Dance with Mary Jane. Them Indiana boys on them Indiana nights. That was a nice. No, like every Hoosier that hears that is like, yeah, okay, Tom's a good boy. Tom is a very good boy. We like him.
He's a good.
He's not John Mellencamp.
Waka waka.
No, that's. He is no John Mellencamp. He will never be Johnny Cougar, as he is here in Indiana. But no, we do love our Tom Petty. We do. We actually do. Basically, all over the Midwest, Tom Petty is a big deal. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like actually, when I was watching that, I was like, dang it, that's what I should have done instead of that podcast episode. I'm so proud of that podcast episode, but I'm like, man, if I wanted to go like more like in on it, then that would have been So this was a nice little experience, and with getting into all this kind of stuff, I don't know how to segue. I went to a festival last weekend.
That'll do.
On the last episode. I was gonna say on the last non-death episode, but that would be the last episode. I basically gave my recap of like acts I got into through the Music Tastes Good festival here in Long Beach, and I don't normally go to like festivals this frequently, but it just happened that this thing called Growlers 6 happened over this past weekend, and it was like the 2 days before my birthday, and a lot of stuff was due on my birthday, so I figured like okay, this is probably the best I'm gonna get. So I'm just gonna cough up the like $100-something and go to this 2-day thing. And just to kind of keep the conversational aspect of this going, I figured that instead of just going over this chronologically, I figured I'd share the screen with you, and you can just point to the ones that catch your eye, and I can kind of go a little bit more in depth into them.
Sure thing.
Yeah,
it's really tiny on my end, so let me blow it up here too. Okay. Okay.
I can zoom in. I can zoom in.
Oh no, you're okay. You're okay. So day one. Okay. First thing I got to know is, how was Modest Mouse? I've always heard good things about that show.
Okay, so it was really good. Isaac was giving his all into a lot of the songs. I actually saw them a few years ago at a X Fest. So it was like another kind of headlining kind of thing, and it was like more like shortly after Strangers to Ourselves came out, so there's a little bit more of an emphasis on that, which I didn't mind. I think I enjoyed that album more than a lot of people. So they played a couple songs from that. It was pretty well divided between their catalog. Like, they went as far back. I forgot if they played anything from Lonesome Crowd West, but they did play Tiny Cities Made of Ashes, which was banger live, really? By the way.
I'll bet.
Yeah,
I'll bet. Yeah.
Yeah, like that and Dashboard were like the two going crazy ones.
Dashboard always makes the crowd go wild. Dashboard's a kick-ass song though, both as a track and live. So yeah.
Yeah.
No surprises there.
And really, like, I kind of got pissed off when people complained that, like, on the later albums, like, they include, like, these dancier songs, because, like, Tiny Cities Made of Ashes, hello?
Yeah. No, it's
a little bit of revisionist history going on there.
It's always been in there, but, some people just kind of prefer Modest Mouse to sound a certain way, but,
I got you. But yeah, they were really good. Now, here's the thing. Ask me how Float On was.
How was Float On?
N.A.
No Float On.
I think I forgot what the last one was. But after the last song, the crowd was, chanting, one more song. And it would be at this point, like maybe a minute in, that they would come back on, like, hey, fake out, but not really,
Yeah.
But then a crew member came out and started wrapping up chords, and then like a light came on, and the house music wasn't on, so we were still kind of holding out hope, and then the house music came on about 5 minutes later.
Well, that sucks, but I mean, Modest Mouse is also one of those bands, like, they're known primarily for Float On. Float On is their big song, but their catalog is so big and so diverse and so great too. Like, it's not like Radiohead. It's not like Radiohead has to play Creep at every show they play. God,
that's what I was going to say. That's the example I was going to give.
Again, like, Radiohead is one of those bands. I wouldn't be surprised if Float On for them too would be like this. Like, they hate that song that they've had to play it so much, and it wasn't even a song they originally liked that much from the outset. So
really?
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
Oh yeah, you never knew that? Yeah, actually, Creep wasn't even supposed to be on the album. Creep.
See, I thought you were talking about Modest Mouse with Float On.
Oh, no. Okay. I was referring to Creep in that. But I can understand how Float On may have gotten that way, because, it's one of those songs, everybody requests it. They've probably played it 1,500 times and, 100 more times than they'd rather, I could see that becoming a song that's, gets kind of old for them to do. Plus, it's a vocally exhausting song. Have you ever tried to sing along with Float On?
Yeah.
It's fucked up, dude. I can understand why Isaac might not want to play that one every night,
Well, I mean, he was screaming a good amount, honestly. And I mean, Dashboard, that's a pretty screamy one.
That's a screamy one too, but I would have always liked to hear Float On, but it's, I don't know, one of those cases I can understand why they may have, preferred to skip, especially for a festival set. If you're gonna, if you want us to play Float On, play Float On.
Float On. That's the cringy science class parody of Modest Mouse's Float On.
Yeah, Photon. Yeah. Oh god.
But and also, like, the stage setup was kind of interesting too, because like there was, like, I think I counted like 9 or 10 people on stage. Like it was pretty nuts. And then like there were like 2 drummers, and Isaac was like on the far right side, which was an interesting choice.
Modest Mouse, they in order to recreate that sound, it does take a lot of people. So it's an interesting setup. It really is. But Modest Mouse is an interesting band, so
Yeah. And it was still a great it was still a great show. So I'm just nitpicking,
Oh yeah, understandable. But
in fact, like after they were done, like I just left for the first day, because honestly, like the second day was the lineup I was more interested in. Like I was planning on seeing 4 different bands on day 1, and I ended up because of like direction stuff I was confused about, I ended up missing one of them, but I still end up seeing 4 bands, 4 acts that day anyway, so I couldn't complain too much.
Oh yeah.
So like, what's like the next one that really stood out to you?
I would be curious to see how was Girl Talk live, because I was curious as to how that would translate in a live setting, especially a festival setting, no less.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say I wasn't there too long because basically how it went is that Julian, Casablancas, and the Voidz played, which we'll probably get into a little later.
Oh yeah.
And then like Girl Pool, the next band I was gonna be seeing, the last one of the night, was on the other side of the festival grounds. So and then Girl Talk was sort of in the stage between. So I just end up kind of walking past for like and seeing them for like the last like 10-15 minutes or so.
Oh, okay.
But it was something. It was a spectacle for sure. And
Really?
Girl Talk is known for like mashups and stuff like that.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think at one point, like, because it was just like a whole thing of like sort of the same feeling that you get listening to like a Neil Cicerega album, where it's like this weirdly works and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Because like at one point the thing that really blew my mind was that they mixed EXO Tour Life by Lil Uzi Vert with the guitar from Paranoid Android.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
Man, if anyone could make that work, it probably would be Girl Talk.
And then it went into like the rock section of it.
Really?
Like the heavier section.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's been released. I'm not sure if like these are like mashups that he's like released online, or if he's just like coming up with them on the spot or whatever else. But and like there's like a crap ton of like like streamers and confetti and stuff let out at like in like the last couple minutes. And like I don't go to a lot of like EDM, like dance music and EDM shows and stuff like that. But yeah, Girl Talk was cool. It was cool. Really, I respected it.
Nice. Very, very cool. In that case, then, the band you were headed to, Julian, Casablancas, and the Voidz. See, I'm very, very familiar with the Strokes, not as familiar with Julian's sort of side dalliances.
Okay.
So I'm interested.
What songs have you heard from that last Voidz album?
Oh, like nothing. Like
you haven't heard Human Sadness?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you got okay.
I'm missing out.
That's like, it's like the first song. It's the first song they put out under that project, and it's 11 minutes long. And the Voidz is basically Julian's outlet for just being completely batshit.
No,
like,
and that wasn't the Strokes. Oh wow.
No, I mean, and like the Strokes, like even at their most experimental, they were still pretty kind of
they were grounded.
They had structure.
They were grounded.
Structure.
Yeah.
They could be played on alternative radio.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's understandable.
Whereas, like even in the most accessible moments, there's like all like these crazy levels of distortion, like these off kilter beats and stuff like that, and it's a weird project, even by like indies, even by like underground standards. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
And the weird thing about this is that they put out this album in 2014 called Tyranny, which was a solid record, all things considered. And it's been a few years since they put out anything. Apparently they're going to be putting out some next year. I don't know. But it's like half the songs I don't think were even on that album. But like they just didn't. But he didn't mention anything about this is a new song except for maybe one time.
Okay.
So it was still entertaining.
Yeah.
And it really let me in that the whole Julian getting drunk and or high before getting on stage thing did not end in the 2000s apparently, because he was ripped. He sung the songs well. I mean, he's never been like he's not a technically
he's not a
amazing
great singer.
But you know, he sung the words in the order they're supposed to be sung and on pitch and stuff like that. So
his unique standard, he did well.
Yes. So he did the performance well, but between songs he was just rambling, and I remember there were a couple quotables in there, but unfortunately my phone died while they were playing, so I wasn't able to get any quality clips of that. But I wish I did, because but yeah, it's still pretty good.
Well, that's good to hear. Again, Julian is a big disciple of like Lou Reed. Like he just loves him some Lou Reed. So seeing him be able to go full Lou Reed, I'll bet that was a hell of a trip. Oh,
okay, yeah. I'm gonna link you Human Sadness, and and I want you to listen to all 11 minutes, because it's a trip.
Okay,
it is a trip by any standards.
I will totally
because actually one of my most popular uploads ever really is a video I put up on my just kind of personal channel, which used to be my music channel, where I did a cover, but like what it would be as an early Strokes song.
Interesting.
And I basically just made it 3.5 minutes by cutting out like 2/3 of it.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
I will totally have to give that a spin. I'm curious, how are the B-52s after all this damn time? The B-52s are still going. Really?
They easily top 3 of this festival.
See, that warms my heart.
I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting it. I mean, I was expecting to enjoy them. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah,
and like, you know, who doesn't? I feel like, if you dislike the B-52s, you're a dick.
Yeah,
you're a dick.
I'm not sure I want to meet the person who dislikes the B-52s, man. That's like, you got to have no fucking soul to not get into like Love Shack and shit.
I mean,
like,
you can be sick of Love Shack. I can see that, but like. But even the second most played song, Rock Lobster, like, come on.
Oh yeah, and again, the B-52s are just nothing but charm. They are super concentrated, charming, and campy, and just, it's fun. It's so much fun, you know. And man, I'm surprised to see they're still going after all these years, and they kicked ass.
Yeah, so they haven't put, as far as I can tell, they haven't put anything out in like 9 years or so.
Oh yeah.
But, and props to them, they did play one song from their latest album, so which from 2008, which, you know, you can't say about a lot of bands that have been going 30+ years. Usually they just bury those in history.
Yeah,
which proves it wasn't just like it wasn't just like a cash grab first album in 16 years thing, which props to them.
Yeah.
The cool thing about them is that, you know, unlike other, I guess what you would call like 80s pop groups, like they have like legitimate cred in like the whole, like we were talking about REM earlier, and they're like in that same scene. You know what I'm saying? Like
they're another band from Athens, Georgia, aren't they?
Yeah.
Athens, for a dinky little town in the middle of the South, man, Athens has a really badass musical history.
They have like this weird sort of like indirect punk cred in a weird alternative cred.
Well,
and because of that, like, there was a mosh pit for most of the sets.
No, that's the thing. Like B-52s,
and so I generally don't mosh. I think that, like, or should I say, before that day, I never jumped in a mosh pit before, but it just looked so wholesome and just happy and just pure.
Dude,
and I know I'm not gonna walk out of this with a bruise.
Dude, I am so happy that your first mosh pit story, your first mosh pit ever, was the B-52s. That is so goddamn adorable. That is wonderful.
That is Mark Berman in a goddamn nutshell.
Not many people can say that, so that is a very cool, unique little thing, yeah.
And I've been to hardcore shows, which I'm going to touch on a little bit later, where I have been, you know, pushed every which way, and personal space is a myth.
Oh yeah,
you know. And so so it was just more of like you know, I don't want to jump in there and start pushing people and stuff. And you know, there is like a push here and there, but it's just more like, it was just so loving. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I'll bet a B-52's mosh pit is just a fun damn place to be. I would love to get into a B-52's mosh pit.
And honestly, I wasn't even in it for most of the time. I was just sort of close to it, and like my friend Nathan, who I went with, he's actually a bigger B-52's fan than me, and he played a good amount of their stuff. In the drive over.
Oh, cool.
Like, 90% of the set, I was just kind of, on the outskirts of it, watching him. It's like, okay, cool. I appreciate this, you know? And I could have had enough of a story with just that. Then Rock Lobster started. And my boy,
that crowd went bananas, didn't it?
Yeah, like, I couldn't not. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, man, that's understandable. For Rock Lobster, you gotta give it up.
Yeah. We're gonna move on, but I want you to appreciate for a second that when I was talking about that mosh pit, I didn't make the reference to the song with REM and B-52s.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Because, like, as much praise as we're giving to both REM and B-52s here,
that was not either of their better moments.
Shining moments. Yeah. But all those words did apply to that mosh pit.
Truth be told, like, they were, if there's any band that can do it, it is the B-52s. But, man, even B-52s, not everything, you can't go that far with it. You think you might be able to get away with it, but no, you can't go that far with it.
Yeah.
Actually, we are getting close to the 2-hour mark.
I mean, I can always cut stuff out.
Well,
I mean, is there anything else you're like super curious about?
Well, that's the thing. There's only one other band I really, really want to ask you about because I know a little bit of the story in advance. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we could not talk about this.
Yeah. The Regrets. I would love to hear the full story behind this because, man, they're another band that's brand spanking new group with a lot of potential. I really dug their debut this year. Like I was,
Same here.
And you've had the chance to see them live once or twice before, right?
Yeah, I saw them at the side stage at the House of Blues in San Diego back in July.
Oh yeah.
And that was great, especially with like the 100-200-ish room there. Like that was pretty nuts.
Nice.
And I talked to them after, and like out of all the shows I've been to, they're maybe literally the only headlining band I'd ever seen that actually hung out at the merch area before the show.
Oh really? Oh. Well, they're still really small. They're still really up and coming. They're still, really trying to build that buzz. They're still a very small group, all things considered.
Yeah. So they're getting pressed. I'll tell you what, they're getting put through the ringer in interviews. Like,
really,
it's fun. Yeah, it's funny. Like I approached them originally with the idea of because I've been wanting to have more guests on Mad Sounds and sort of the idea of like, hey, would you guys want to come on? But it's like looking at it like they were in the middle of all of the what's it like being a teenager and playing music when like a girl playing music? What like all those hacks.
Yeah, didn't feel like contributing to that.
Yeah, I want to wait until there's a gaping hole in the press schedule. You know what I'm saying? And just give the least junkety conversation ever. A
real goddamn sort of sit down with these guys.
Yeah,
oh, man, I feel you.
Anyway, back to this. So the point. Yeah. So there was at least that tiny sliver of relief that I had seen them before. So what happened? In case you guys don't follow me on Twitter, I recapped it in depth there. What happened? So they were like I want to say the second or third band I saw that day, and they were the first one that I was really looking forward to for day two. They came on stage in their Halloween costumes. Because like costumes were encouraged and stuff, and everything was going great, and like they played "I Don't Like You." That's where I got that clip from, and they were in the middle of "Hey Now," when this girl just hopped into the photo pit, and I was on the barricade at the time, so I saw it was in full view of all this. This girl in like I think like a Supergirl costume or something
like that. She was wearing a cape.
Yeah. So you saw some of the footage, right?
I saw some of that footage. Yeah, she was wearing a cape and she was really drunk.
Well, actually, so I'll get into that. So she hopped into, I don't know how she got into there, just started pushing around photographers and stuff. Security was doing nothing because there were a few security guards there, and that was like the main takeaway is like, hello.
Yeah.
But so she just like climbed up on stage and just pushed Lydia down, and she like fell like, I can't tell if like her head hit one of the amps.
Ooh.
But like it was close at least. Everyone obviously stopped dead, and you know, they tried to like process what was happening, and they kind of went off stage, you know, about after like a couple minutes.
Oh yeah.
And then like a couple minutes later, I think it was one of them came out and just said, "Sorry, we're gonna have to cut the set short." And it just kind of left us in like now what kind of thing.
Bummer.
So you know, like Sage was sort of talking in front of the area like a few minutes later to people, and you know, she was like able to like have kind of a laughing it off kind of attitude about it, but you can tell it was a shitty situation. But so it's funny you mentioned the whole idea of like being drunk and all that. That's what you would think, but the thing is, it was 2 in the afternoon.
Oh, that does, dude, for a festival crowd? Oh, that means nothing. That means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, but it's sort of like the idea manifests in my head of like, man, being sober and still doing that. You know what I'm saying? But it turns out, like, you know, as it was being reported, and I think Stereo Gum covered it. Yeah. A couple other sites. They reported that apparently this girl was like on a ton of drugs and mistook Lydia for someone else, and you know, so it's like not even a molecule closer to justifying it.
No, not at all, none whatsoever.
Not a cell.
No,
closer.
Of course
not.
Not
a millimeter.
But it makes more sense logically as to why it happened, I guess, you know.
Yeah, and one annoying reaction I saw, just to add more reasons to be pissed off about this whole situation, is that people were blaming the other band members.
Why?
Because they didn't like run over there in half a second and like armbar her on the spot. Oh, basically, because they were kind of like standing there, like, and like if I was in that position, I probably would have just been like kind of standing there stunned for a second, just kind of processing what's happening. And
you know whose job it is to armbar someone when that happens? Security. Yeah.
And in general, like, I'm gonna fire some freaking shots at this festival. There were a few sketchy red flags kind of peppered throughout this thing, and that was the kicker, really. Because, like, you know, even afterwards when they were when you know, I was, like, right there next to them, they didn't even, like, show, like, a great amount of concern or anything like that, or apologizing or anything. And, like, and like, this is, you had one job.
Yeah, you literally had one job: security, keep people off the stage, keep people that aren't, you know, do your job and actually protect the bands, and keep people that aren't supposed to be on that damn stage off that damn stage. And you know, when a girl blitzed off her tits on whatever can just randomly walk up and say, "Oh, you that bitch, it took my purse," or whatever. I don't know, but I don't know how it went down. But still, but you know, so that reflects really terribly on the venue, on the security firm, or if it's in-house security, whatever situation they've got. That's really shitty on the venue's part. The band, I feel really shitty for the outlets that were reporting, well, why didn't the band go out there? Well, you know, why didn't Christine, you know, go out there and kung fu kick her ass? It's not her job to kung fu kick her ass, you know, for God's sake. Like, that is why security is up there, for fuck's sake.
And see, this wasn't something that the articles were saying. It was more like, because afterwards, like that night, I was like on the mentions on Twitter. I wanted to see what the coverage of this would be like, because I was fully invested in this whole situation. And actually, it was more just like a couple people just like in their own tweets, not in any of their articles and stuff, were just like, man, Sage and Max, they did her dirty. I'll tell you what. And it's just like, don't build that narrative. Stop that.
Yeah. Ugh. It sucks for them too, because they're still a small band. They're still trying. They're busting their ass out there. They're trying to get more recognition. They're a band that deserves more recognition. Like I said, I really, really liked their debut, and it always sucks when you got to go through that, but. Man, hopefully this band will break and, they will see more success to where they won't actually have to deal with that kind of shit anymore. I hope this should be the way it is from the very start, but hopefully they can get to that place in their career where, when someone storms the stage, everyone is on their side saying, hey, get the fuck off,
And I mean, granted, that was the position everyone had,
of course,
in the crowd and stuff. But yeah, like, here's the kicker, like
again, it's security's fault. Yeah,
and the thing is, like, I was like right there on the other side of the barrier. I was like 5 feet away when this was happening.
So you saw all this go down.
And she was. It's not like she just like sprinted right up and then climbed on the stage immediately. She didn't beeline it. She was pushing photographers for a solid like 10, 15 seconds.
See, yeah, somebody from security should have easily caught that. It wasn't like she snuck past or blitzkrieged her way past. She should have just they should have stopped her long before she reached that stage. But it sucks when that happens. But again, it's also a festival crowd too, so you never know what you're gonna run into with those, I guess. And I feel bad for them. They're a band that doesn't deserve that no band deserves that kind of treatment, really, but like they especially don't deserve that kind of treatment. They're a great group and they don't. No band should have to put up with that, of course, but them especially. It hurts more when it's a band you like, damn it. I mean, if this shit had happened to like Attila, I would feel less bad about it. I hate to admit, but at the same time, that's still shitty. That's still shitty pool,
Honestly, if this happened to the Growlers, it wouldn't have, because like I don't know, because so this festival is it's called the Growlers Six, and it's like this band called the Growlers. It's actually on Julian's label. That's probably how that connection happened. And kind of the background is that like they hosted this festival annually previously in Orange County called Beach Goth. And like I've never been to any of them, but the lineups looked cool. But there was like a falling out between them and the venue. So they ended up moving into the LA waterfront for this.
Okay.
For this own festival. And honestly, all of that information I just said is so much more interesting than the Growlers themselves.
I know I've never heard of them. I can't say they've struck a bell or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really like style over substance, and it's like I appreciate like, okay, you guys have like a thing going, with the same time I feel like you guys are more interesting as entrepreneurs than musicians.
They don't deserve a whole festival named after them, I take it.
They had longer set times. Like they played at the end of both nights. And like they had like hour-and-a-half sets, whereas Julian and Modest Mouse got an hour. And it's like, come on, guys.
Come on.
It's just cheap.
I guess
I get playing at the end of the night, but a longer set. Come on.
I guess when it's your festival, you can make the rules, but at the same time, putting yourself above like Modest Mouse and the B-52s, and I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't have the brass-plated nuts to do that, regardless of whatever festival, regardless of if my name was on the festival, but I don't know.
Okay, but I will say, like, after the regrets thing, so kind of going chronologically, because I have like the schedule still in front of me. Like after that, I saw a little bit of Frankie Cosmos, because at that point, me and Nathan had like split off. He saw Frankie Cosmos, I saw the regrets. So I ended up seeing her. That was cool. And then the act after that. So and now you're way more into like the Riot Girl stuff than I am. I only like hear names here and there. So. Maybe you can, if you're familiar with this, then you can fill me on some details. So after that, I was, looking for kind of a girl punk kind of hole in my heart to be filled. You know what I'm saying?
No, understandable.
So there was this one band that played called X Stains. So did you mention in one of your recent reviews of one of these like newer kind of Riot Girl revival bands, a band called Bratmobile?
I did mention Bratmobile, yes. Old school classic Riot Girl band, really old school.
Yeah, so this band is from my research the newest band from the front woman of that band.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So it was and they were cool, you know.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't the tightest set in the world. It was cool. They seemed like they were having a lot of fun up there. So props to them.
Nice. Glad to see. I forget her name. I should know her name, but the front woman from Bratmobile. Nice to see she's still out and about, still doing her thing. Yeah.
And sort of running down some of the other ones, I saw Danny Brown on the first. So going on the first day, Danny Brown, who is like I think that honestly, as far as rappers go, if you're interested in the more like the kind of more like dirty, grimy side of things that like isn't afraid of getting super fucked up with its like subject matter and stuff like that, you might dig him, especially with his latest album. And actually, he makes some allusions to rock stuff in his set. Like, actually, he started the set out by playing Iron Man, the intro from Iron Man.
Oh, wow.
And like, yeah, and then like after every song, he would like throw up the horns, and that'll be a whole thing with the audience.
Oh, cool.
And actually, and also his latest album, Atrocity Exhibition, it's actually named after the Joy Division song because there's a song on that album that samples it.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So if I'm gonna be forcing that genre onto you in the future, that's one I definitely. Honestly, the only reason why I'd be hesitant is that he has a very acquired taste voice.
Okay.
Like if you think Claudio's high, or like possibly a little grating on the ears, it's very much a love or hate thing.
Okay, that's understandable.
But if you can get into it, then
it's worth getting into.
The production's super weird on the latest album, but still, like you probably find something to enjoy. But yeah, he was really good. Alice Glass, that's one I was interested in seeing. So obviously formerly of Crystal Castles, who I'd never gotten into too much before, but you know, she's been putting out solo stuff this year, and you've heard the whole situation around her, right? I
haven't actually. What's going on in that? Forgive my ignorance.
So she recently came out with allegations against her former bandmate in Crystal Castles, and if you followed recent events, you know where this is going.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and this was like a week after that she posted that whole thing detailing the history.
Oh, no kidding. Oof.
Yeah.
Damn.
So and as messed up as this sounds to say, I'm very aware this sounds like very like, dude, you should not be like, that should not make you interested in someone, but it did make me curious to check out her stuff, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, I mean, you know, you can't help but, you know, I can understand why your ears would be perked up, you know? I mean, wait, I know her from, but I know her from this. Ooh, that's unfortunate. But it led you to some good music, it sounds like. So,
yeah, I actually think that as far as pop music, like indie pop music goes, it might actually be kind of, maybe not in your like YouTube jurisdiction, but I think it'll hit you in kind of a I don't want to say in a Tegan Seri kind of way because she's a lot weirder about it.
Yeah,
but it's got I feel like there's like a similar kind of ethos behind it.
I can get behind that.
As some of the stuff, yeah,
sure.
Because like the thing is, listening to that EP she put out, like you can really tell. But yeah, so I was curious enough to end up seeing her, and she came on like 15 minutes late, which was a little concerning, but apparently it was like a whole scheduling thing with the festival. Again, like they didn't entirely know what they were doing, really. Apparently there were delays across the board.
Yeah, 15 minutes ain't bad for a delay. Personally, I've sat through much worse.
Yeah, so she was actually playing at the same time as Bad Brains. And that was another point where me and Nathan split off. I saw her, he saw them, and it's funny. It was kind of like a trade off from the last time we did that, where like I went to the punk band and he went to the chill one. You know?
Oh yeah. Now to be fair, I probably would have been at Bad Brains myself, but I don't know what Bad Brains looks like these days. I don't even know who's in Bad Brains these days. To be fair,
I mean, he actually told me that they weren't that good. Honestly, he was a little disappointed by it.
again, you're dealing with a really old punk band. I know at least one of Bad Brains' OG members is dead. So,
and like a couple of them, and I know like one of them has had like this really bad like pain condition like over the past couple years.
Like they're really old and they're not in great health, really, generally. So, yeah, that doesn't surprise me necessarily. But I don't know. It's Bad Brains. You know, you kind of got to pay your respects. In some, I mean, if you're a punk geek like I am, you know.
Yeah, and the last one I'm going to talk about on a highly climactic note was Dan Auerbach. He was boring.
Yeah, that's what everyone says about Dan Auerbach.
And here's the thing: it's like you were talking about Black Keys earlier, and I was going to say we're going to get back to that. So man, it's like he played well, and he brought out like this guy that's on this soul singer that's on his label, and to play a couple songs of his, and he was really good. But the problem is that he was playing songs off his new solo album, which is so
bad,
boring.
Yeah,
it's like the least. It's like it's not the worst album I've heard this year, but it's the one that has the least reason to exist.
Yeah, again, we're talking about Pacific Daydream, aren't we? Kind of weird. No,
maybe that'll be in that same league. I don't even know. But it's like because I listen to interviews and stuff where it's like he's in Nashville now working with all these old legendary like guitarists and stuff and sort of cranking out like hundreds of songs, and it sounds so this mythos behind it sounds so intriguing, but it seems like it's like maybe it's like a Jack White thing where it's like he's so comfortable that the songs just aren't inspired at all.
Yeah, I mean, the lore and the history and the people behind the music, that can be very interesting. But if the music itself isn't interesting, then why are we at a concert? Yeah, like literally the title track of that album, Waiting on a Song, is about being uninspired. That's really what it's called? Waiting on a Song? Oh,
that's the name of the album.
Oh, for God's sake, you were just asking for the bad reviews in that case. Come on.
Yeah.
Waiting for a song? Yeah, I sure was, but Tish.
Yeah, and it's like there's a couple okay tracks on there, but it's like they're not better than the worst songs on the best Black Keys albums.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's like between this and the Arcs, like I'm actually really concerned about the next Black Keys albums, frankly.
The thing is, Black Keys, I fell off that train a long while back. The thing is, at this point, the only thing the Black Keys could possibly do, it feels like to me at least, is make another boring, it's another Black Keys album, okay. Or full-blown finally just make the album that full-blown sucks and makes us stop caring altogether. I just do not have a fuck to give about these guys anymore. I really, really don't.
Yeah, it seems like, they're off doing their own thing, Dan's doing some production, unfortunately. You've heard that Cage the Elephant album, right?
I heard that Cage the Elephant album.
You
concur.
Heard that Cage the Elephant album.
I heard it, and yeah, he's not... Production is not one of his... He is a gifted man. Production is not one of those gifts, it seems, at this stage.
Yeah, and Patrick's doing his own production stuff apparently. He's with like Michelle Branch and stuff, so good for him.
Oh, yeah.
I'm ending on a very climactic note, I know. But yeah, we went for a solid over 2 hours. I can definitely pair. I definitely know where I'm gonna. I definitely know where I'm gonna pare this down.
Oh yeah.
Where it's more rambly stuff on my end, or like the tech issues and stuff.
But you should have a nice solid chunk of stuff to work with here, I think. Let me check my audio real quick. Yeah, I'm at the 2:15 mark. I mean, you cut out all our flubs and everything else. You've got at least a solid hour 45 there.
Well, okay. Thank you, Mr. I'm going to get into host mode now.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Crash Thompson, for your appearance on this fine podcast. We definitely, I appreciate sort of like a second string co-host in a way. Been on a few of these eps. if you want to check out, stuff we were talking about toward the beginning, he goes a lot more into the whole hip thing on his new video. First episode of a new series called How to Get Into, where he talks about a lot of very Canadian music. And
in this first episode, at least, yes, very Canadian music, about as Canadian as you can get. But yeah,
yes.
Mark, thank you very much for having me on. Always a pleasure, dude. Thank you.
Yeah, if you're being directed here through Crash, feel free to check out past episodes of it. Most of them from the past little while or so. Yeah, pretty much everything from 2017 is on iTunes. The rest is on the YouTube channel. My usual co-host, Johnny, aka Viral Rack, you might remember, he got a bit of a mention, actually, in one of your quickies recently.
Yes, he did.
So if you heard his mention when they were talking about what was the band again?
Iced Earth.
Yeah. So that guy, if you want someone that can inform someone from time to time about certain bands and stuff, you were talking about him being a big Primus aficionado. That's definitely the case.
Yes.
Yeah, he co-hosts the podcast on most occasions nowadays. He's just having some tech issues now, so he's gonna be off for the next few, which I'm gonna figure out some guest situations for that. And also, I've had John on a lot of episodes from ARTV. I've had just all the Johns, really.
There's a lot of Johns in this scene. I don't know. That's a weird coincidence.
A lot of Marks too. I haven't had any of them on yet, though. Give it time. We're already on Canadian grounds, I'm just saying. If you're listening, man, if you're listening on iTunes, check out the Mad Sounds YouTube channel, where I also put up other videos every other week between the episodes. I especially put up a particularly spicy shit post about me turning 21 and taking my first drink. And if you're listening on YouTube, subscribe on iTunes. Most convenient way to get this stuff. And yeah, that's about it for the plugs. Do you have anything to say as a goodbye?
No, you covered it very succinctly, guys. I'm Crash Thompson. I host a show on YouTube called The Rock Critic. If you were mildly amused by my random bullshitting, feel free to check it out. Thanks for having me on, man.